Well, those of us that are passionate about God's heart for the poor in our own communities can't really take responsibility for that. That comes from God. And somewhere in our journey, He's touched us and He has told us that He is passionate about the poor. And finding His passion and finding His presence in our communities is what we all then become about. You know, we think it's a calling and we start to look at it as a calling, and then it becomes more of a locating. That those of us that live and work among the poor in our communities have found Jesus there, and have found that even though we fall in love with our communities and we fall in love with the people there and we fall in love with the community itself, the truth is we're falling in love with Jesus more and more. Because before we ever got there, He was there. Because He promises us that He is located among the poor, and we do find Him. So if you were passionate a little bit in that early sense of calling 30 years later, which is my case, your passion will only increase because it's now Jesus you've encountered.
You're not a leader just because you get all this knowledge, you go all to school and do all that. A leader is a person who enters into the agony and the pain of the people of that time. Yeah. That's what makes a leader. Remember the great leaders. The great leaders dealt with the issues and the pain of the people in their day. Those are the leaders you remember. These have all these Mercedes and Cadillacs and airplanes and all that. When they die, that's the end of it. That's the end of it. But people like Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Wilberforce, and other great people, the reason we remember them, they entered in and laid their life down and out there with the people of their day, and we remember them. And they are the people who changed us. You ain't no leader. We just now got you into some kind of a leadership observation. You understand? You will be a leader when you go back to your community and enter into the agony and the pain of the people in your neighborhood, with the gangs, the drug pushers, and those people there, and begin to deliver them. Or you become a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, and get in there with the pain of the people. You ain't no leader just because you're so pretty. You ain't no leader just because you're so educated. You need all of that. But you become a leader only when you lead.
The reality is that the pews are full of folks with those kind of abilities who can't put those abilities to work in their church because the church doesn't have job descriptions that fit those. And they don't hear sermons that those are important gifts. They're secular gifts. They've heard the spiritual gift sermon, but you probably never heard a sermon on the spiritual gift of deal making, have you? But these people, the pastors know who they are. They're the guys that are sitting in the pews that feel kind of unspiritual because all they can do is make deals and make money. And of course the pastors love them because if they tithe, it's marvelous. But they've done everything. Every job description in the church they've done. They've been an elder or a deacon. They've served on a committee, on the finance committee. They've taught a Sunday school class. But none of that comes even close to their best natural ability. And their wives know what it is, because these guys come home late for dinner at night, and their wives get upset with them. But they're preoccupied with a deal. They bring home papers from the office, and they don't pay much. They don't pay good attention to their kids because their minds are always distracted, and they drop in bed at night by midnight, and this deal is running in their minds. And at 5 o'clock, their eyes pop open, and they jump out of bed with the deal running, and they can't help themselves. It's their default mechanism. And they finally work for weeks, for months, pulling a deal together, and they finally come to the closing table, and there's a stack of documents for them to sign, and then the check is slid across the table to them, and they pick it up and hardly notice it, stick it in their pocket, and go out the door chasing another deal. There's already one in the pipeline. Even a better deal. They can't help themselves. They feel pretty unspiritual. But when those guys connect that deal-making ability with a kingdom venture, it ignites them. It's like, oh, God has given me this ability for His purposes. It's like under the lordship of Christ, any talent is a spiritual gift. They just haven't heard a sermon on that. But if you can connect those guys with a vision in your community, and they see how they can put their real estate abilities, their banking, their lawyering abilities around a kingdom vision that has transformative impact, it absolutely ignites them, it transforms them, and it's like, this is what I have been created to do.
I'm a Puerto Rican chick from Humboldt Park, but actually my dad is a New Yorican. Anyone know what that is? Puerto Rican from New York. And my mom is a white lady who thinks she's Puerto Rican. She's a little bit confused, she really is. When we have the big Puerto Rican festival in our neighborhood in Humboldt Park each year, my dad's in the house going, oh, those stupid Puerto Ricans out there making so much noise. And my mom's going, que viva, with her flag. I mean, they've really kind of reversed their roles. But anyway, so I've grown up with a very bicultural experience, but growing up in the Puerto Rican community and really choosing to be Puerto Rican from very early on, that is a big part of my identity, and my community is a big part of my identity. I still live within the same few square block area where I've lived since I was a baby, so it's a big part of me. Growing up there really helped me understand the realities of poverty. Though my parents both had master's degrees and had a lot more options than a lot of our neighbors, I was very much taught to love my neighbor, care for the poor. But it was very much on an individual level. There wasn't a lot of systemic analysis going on. But I was always very interested in the physical environment. There were a lot of arson fires in my neighborhood when I was a kid. I had no idea they were arson fires, though. I just thought it was totally normal for people to go out and watch their friends' houses burn down, and that's just kind of how everybody grew up.
CCDA is really the foremost authority, I think, in my opinion, when it comes to urban ministry. And not even just urban ministry, but just ministry in general. But it really just, it has the edge to it. It has the philosophy is outstanding. I mean, to have a cat like Perkins come out and to really lay these foundational concepts and theories down, it makes me feel good about knowing that there's an organization, a group of people, a community, if you will, that really shares the vision of development. I mean, because that, I think, is what is needed domestically here in the U.S. today, as we look at what, some of the things that are going on socioeconomically, class-wise, race-wise. CCDA is really addressing those issues. It's one of the few organizations that I've seen that's really going deep with those issues, and I'm just proud to be a part of this organization as a member, as a trainer, and just as someone who's just helping out, or just somebody who's getting the training as well. These are great events.